Hello everyone, this is Aaron again, another video of course. Today we're going to be talking about the Chrono and why I think it's necessary to have one, and in certain situations you just got to have one. But before I do that, let me just give a quick shout out. I'm wearing my shirt especially for this. Let me give a shout out to my fellows over there in the UK and surrounding area. I'm thinking about you guys at this time, thinking about the whole world at this time that we're going through this thing. But I just want to give a shout out to those guys over there. David Hunt, I know you're watching, you always do, thank you. Casper Boo over there in England also, thank you. Off-Grid Madman, I like that name. I hope you're off-grid, but I certainly hope that you're not truly a madman. Watching Yulee from Birmingham over there. And Derek Todd in Northern Ireland, I hope things are well for you there. And I'll post the rest of you guys here. Let me just say this at the outset, that if you don't see your name here from the UK area and you send it to me, I'm really sorry. I got a lot of people sending me information during the big giveaway, and I was so busy I wasn't able to transfer a lot of that over to my worldwide map. So what I'd like to do is have you guys out there who are not on the map yet, if you have a comment, just put down where you're from really quickly, and I'll transfer you to the map and I'll get you on here, because I do want to be able to acknowledge from time to time people that are watching from around the world. So I just wanted to give that quick shout out. Okay, back to the subject at hand. Today again, as I said, we're talking about the Chrono. And for me, the Chrono for me is, I did a lot of research before I purchased this thing, and I looked at it not only from the standpoint of how well they work, and they all seem to be working well. I didn't get one bad review on any of them out there. So because I didn't know what to go with. So what I did was I watched as many as I could, and I said, okay, what is everybody out there, from the rifle shooters to the archery shooters to the pellet gun shooters, what are they using? The Pro Chrono was the one. So I went with the Pro Chrono, and I don't feel as though it was a bad choice for me at all. So why am I doing this about the Chrono? Why am I even talking about it? Why do I think it's necessary? I think it's necessary if you have more than two guns, because you really want to start to know what your guns are doing. You want to be able to compare them for speed and a number of other things other than just accuracy. A lot of people out there are concerned about foot-pounds. Now, foot-pounds have never meant anything to me, and they still don't. I still, right now, I couldn't tell you what the foot-pounds are on any of my guns, because I don't care. What I'm using it for, will it kill that thing instantly with a headshot, and will it kill it in a short period of time with a massive cavity shot? The answer to that is yes. I don't care if it's 20 foot-pounds or 21.2 foot-pounds. So I don't look at that. I look at speed. So I know a lot of you guys have asked me, Aaron, what are the foot-pounds of that P15? And I always write back to you, I don't know, but this is the pellet, 10.49, and this is the speed, 900. And I know that from there you can figure it out, because I really don't care, because I know it's doing what I want it to do, and so the foot-pounds doesn't matter to me. Now, if I was in England with my buddies, yeah, 12 would be the number. And I'm telling you, from what I hear, what the consequence can be if you're shooting at 13 or 14, we're supposed to be at 12, it can be quite a problem for you. So yeah, I think you want a really good calibrated Chrono if you're over there, and you got to stay below 12. But also, you got to have, a lot of people putting in regulators. You know, a lot of guns are not regulated, and so people are buying regulators. And I know I even bought a second-party regulator on eBay for about 70 bucks, I guess it was, when I had my Hatsan Gladius, and I put it in. And I was really glad I had this, because when I put it in, it didn't work properly. And I wouldn't have known that for quite a while, but I was able to go right in, pull the trigger, say something's wrong here. I was able to ship it back, and they shipped me a second one, and the second one was set right, and it worked right. And the gun was regulated and shot. The curve was gone, and it had a shot extreme spread that was really nice. I can't remember what it was now. But so if you're putting a regulator into a gun, you got to have one of these and make sure it's working well, and make sure it's that's working at all. You may get one that's not even working. And so making sure that it's working properly, And testing your regulators, as I said, you got to test it to make sure it's there. There are a lot of people out there that talk to me about, and these are the big time people that play around with their guns. They're not afraid to take them all the way down, totally apart. And these people, they will go in and they will mess with the transfer port. They'll drill it out so they get more air getting down there, especially start to get into slugs and that sort of thing, and they need more air to push that slug. They start messing with parts of the guns I would never mess with. But as you mess with those parts of the guns, you need to know what you just did. And the only way you're going to find that out is with one of these to see exactly what adjustment you just made and what it's done to the speed of the pellet. So, and a lot of people talk to me about these P15 and say, how do you adjust the hammer springs and other guns I have? Hammer spring, hammer spring, hammer spring. You know, if you get the gun and you don't know what speed it's shooting at, and you start messing with the hammer speed, you still don't know what it's shooting at. You know, have no idea what adjustment you just made. Got to have one of these in that particular case. So if you mess around with any of that transfer port, if you mess around with the hammer spring, if you mess around with the transfer port. Now, when I got my FX Impact, I really needed one because all of a sudden I had this gun with all this adjustability and all these different barrels and everything, and I had a 25 caliber barrel and also a 177, and the pellets needed to go at a certain speed. I wanted to keep my 177 under 900, and of course I wanted to shoot my 25 caliber in the 850s, and so it was very, very important that I had one of these at that particular time. So it's good for all kind of things, for making sure that your guns are shooting the way you want them to shoot at the speed you want to shoot them for the type of pellet that you're shooting. And also, it's good to check your regulator. Let me say this. There are a lot of people out there that told me when I got my FXs, take those regulators out of there. The FX regulators are no good. Put a Huma regulator in it. Put a Huma regulator. I just kept hearing Huma regulator. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it might be a great regulator, but let's just say this. Let's just say this. This came with the gun. Now I'm going to go out and I'm going to spend I'm guessing, $150 on a regulator. And let's just say that the regulator that came with the gun had an extreme shot spread of, let's say 10. And let's say the Huma regulator had an extreme of, let's say 5, cut it in half, of 5. Is that 5 feet per second going to make a difference at a 30 or 40 or 50 yard shot? Enough for me to spend $150 on? I don't think so. So I always left mine in. I never fell for this Huma stuff. It might be good, maybe if I was trying to hit a fly at 30 yards, but that's not what I'm trying to do. So it never made any sense to me. But one thing I do want to address here, though, as we're talking about this, I do want to compare, if you will, my P15 177 against my FX Impact in terms of speed, extreme spread, and all that. I want to test my 22 P15 against my Wildcat, FX Wildcat, and I would like to have the opportunity to test my 25 cal against my 25 cal FX Impact, but I don't know if I want to go through changing all the barrel out and adjusting with all the speeds and all that to get that set back up right. So I don't know if I'm going to do the 25 cal, but I will do the other two just so we do have some type of comparison in terms of what the regulator is doing in this cheap Chinese gun, as they would say, versus this very expensive Swedish gun. So that's one of the things I want to do. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about an option with this particular I almost call it a regulator. This particular Chrono compared to the way you will standardly get it and what options it gives you to do some other things with it. So let me change things around here and show you something that I think is very important about this particular thing. All right, let's go. Okay, we're back. Now, one of the things that's going to happen when you get this, it's going to come set up just like this, and it's going to have these. I'm going to call them wings on it, and these wings are really kind of like diffusers for the light, so that when the pellet's going through, this helps the whatever's in here to I'm not sure. I'm just going to say the laser. It helps the laser to see the pellet as it flies through, and then flies out this end, so they can calculate the speed of that object, that whatever is passing through here. But one of the things I have to do is 99% of the time when I am shooting and testing, I'm doing it inside. And I'm telling you, you can set up any kind of light situation you can with this, and this will not work inside. These little wings here. So there's an option that you can get. And let me just take these off and show you that option really quickly. And so if you have one of these for indoors, and you want to do chroning, especially in the wintertime when you can't go outside and that sort of thing, and you need to really find out what things are going on, you work with your guns in the basement or in the garage, you don't want to have to run outside and set all this up. So the optional thing you can get for it is these. You can see a little light glowing there, red light glowing. But what these things do is, I think they send off a ultraviolet light, such as the light that you would get outside, to help illuminate the pellet that goes through. And I'm gonna tell you what, outside I've gotten errors on this thing. You pull the gun, you pull the trigger, you shoot the pellet, and all of a sudden you get an error. These things here, I seldom get an error at all with them. And so I'm gonna put a link in down here where you can find these if you want to take a look at them, if you do have one of these and don't already have them. But I'm telling you, for indoor use, which is 99% of the time that I use this, these things are a must. But again, I put some information here, and there's a link to that in the description. Okay, so with that, that is the reason why I really do think that that these things are necessary for the air gun world, and I think that most people out there who are serious about this have one. But if you don't have one, it may be something you want to consider. Okay, now we're going to set this thing up now where we can contest. We're going to compare some guns, and I think that I'm not going to break down my my Impact to the 25. It has the 177 on it. I'm going to go ahead. I believe it's the 177. Now I don't remember, but whichever the one it is, I'll announce that in a minute, and that's the one that we're going to use for the comparison. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fill them all to the exact same pressure, even though they have different regulators set for that. I'm going to fill them to the same pressure, and then we're going to take 10 shots with each gun, and we're going to find out what the high, what the low was, and I think this thing will do the extreme spread on that. Alright, let's go do it. First up is going to be my P15 22 cal shooting 18 grain pellets, JSBs. Let's take a look. Okay, that was the P15. So let me go through the review here. So we had a high of 831. Okay, so we got 823, 831, 826, 823. So as you can see on the review, that this thing here is shooting pretty consistently with that cheap regulator in it. Okay, we're going to be comparing that P15 and 22 to my FX Wildcat 22, also shooting 18 grain JSBs. Okay, this is going to be 8 shots with the FX Wildcat, and this is the Mach 1. Okay, that was the Wildcat. Take a look at the string real quick. I'll let you guys at home record this down if you want to do it, and if you want to pause this thing and all that. I'm just going to do a quick review. Number 1, 836. I guess it's counting down. 843, 840, 848, 840, 847, and 829. High was 848. The low was 829. I think that regulator is as good as anything you can get in there. And I wouldn't want to go out there and pay $150 to make a change for a few feet per second. All right, let's go to the next gun. This is my 25 cal P15. It's going to be shooting against the impact in terms of regulators. Okay, here we have the 25 cal. This is the 25 cal P15, 8 shots. Okay, that was the P15 and 25 caliber. And let's go through that string real quick. Go through a quick review. 734, we had a 44 at the top. Number 6 was 41, 5 was 42, 4 was 42, 3 was 37, 39, and 47. And they said that that's a cheap regulator in there to take it out. I don't agree, and my Chrono doesn't agree. All right, next. Next up, going to be my 25 cal FX Impact, shooting 25 grain JSB pellets. Here we're shooting the 25 cal Impact with 25 grain JSBs, 8 shots. Okay, let's take a look at that. Review, so we got 890 on number 1, 890 on number 2, 6, we're counting down. 881, dupe, 892, 892, 887, 880, and 887. Now, all those people who told me when I bought this gun, the FX Impact and FX products have terrible regulators in them. Don't believe them, folks. Don't believe them. I don't think you're going to find anything out there to do better than that. And they said they improved the regulator in the Mark II. So, if the Mark I is shooting this kind of string, I think the other one would be doing really, really good, wouldn't you? All right. Okay, now we're moving on to the 177, shooting H&N Barracuda hunters at 10.49 grain. Okay, folks, and lastly I have my little baby here, my favorite gun in the world. And the reason I say that is because this little gun here, if any of you guys ever want to go pesting and talk to a farmer about pesting, and you get up and you get a conversation with him, first of all, tell him you're shooting a 177 and pull a pellet out of your pocket and show it to him. And then secondly, pull this little gun here out and he will say, go ahead. He'll look at this little thing and say, all right, that doesn't look like it could kill a flea. And this little thing here, as you've seen in the videos, is dangerous. But anyway, let's see how good the regulator is in this thing. 8 shots. So much for those who talk about my little gun and dog it and say it's a cheap gun and everybody should go out and buy these $2,000 guns and stuff. Let's take a look at this little cheap Chinese regulator. Let's do a review here. Got an 855, 861, 867, sorry, 872, 869, 871, 860, 865, and 868. I'll take that all day long for a $450 gun. So there it is, all 5 guns shown on the regulator. All of them you had a chance to look at the, on the Chrono, and you got a chance to look at the speeds. And I don't think those speeds are going to be enough to do much to that pellet at the ranges that we're shooting. And if it drops off 7 or 8 or 10 feet per second. Okay, let's close it out. Okay, now we're gonna go and I got the barrel, the 177 barrel on Diao Impact. So let's go and see what the 177 barrel is gonna do on the Chrono. Shooting the same H&N Barracuda Hunter in 10.49 grain. Let's see how good the regulator works. Okay. The last one kind of spiked up there a little bit, didn't it? Okay, let's take a look. We have a 920, 915, 97, 93, 911, 900. So about 15 feet per second difference on all of those shots. Not bad. Okay, let's move on. You know, it just hit me, you guys, that I've been talking a lot about regulated guns and how the Chrono is going to help you to figure out the regulator is good or bad, or whether or not it's working correctly and all this sort of stuff. But it just hit me. A lot of you guys may not even understand the difference between a regulated and an unregulated gun, and the advantages and the disadvantages of that. So let's take a quick look at this, just for you people who are kind of new to this and don't understand that concept right now. Take a quick look. Okay, we're talking about regulators and how the Chrono can help you to know if your regulator is doing a good job. Here I just want to explain a little bit about regulated versus unregulated guns. So for those of you who already understand this, go ahead and fast forward. For the others, this is only going to take a couple of minutes. In an unregulated gun, you have two things. You have a power curve and you have a sweet spot. The power curve is the actual curve that the gun would shoot on from the time that you start out with 3,000 pounds of pressure till you drop down to whatever your fall off point is for your particular gun. All right. The sweet spot is going to be the place within that gun that shoots a consistent feet per second that's not going to have much variance in it. So if you take a look here, let's just say that the sweet spot starts at 830 and ends at 830. And throughout that sweet spot, it goes all the way up to 850 or in the 850s, I would say. And then it will start to drop back down until it get to the 830. And this is where you want it to be. Well, it could be 800. And you'll go from here to here. But what's going to happen is this. When you first feel the gun at 3,000 PSI, the hammer has to hit against the sear and knock this valve in, and it's going against 3,000 pounds of pressure. It's not going to be able to do that effectively at the beginning. So it's going to hit, it's going to get resistance, and it's going to strike and get resistance, but more air is going to come out. As that air drops and drops and drops, you're going to find yourself finally reaching the point where we are now into the sweet spot. And you're going to be able to, and there's going to be a balance, kind of a balance found here between resistance and the hammer tension. And it's going to go throughout for a number of shots. And you have to determine what those shots are going to be. And then it's going to start to fall off. On the other hand, down here with a gun that you have that is regulated, what you're going to have is you're going to have an air cylinder, you're going to have a regulator, you're going to have a plenum, and the plenum is where the air is stored that's going to be used. This air is not going to be used during the shot at all. Only the air going to be used is the air that's in the plenum. And if you guys are hearing a lot about what FX is doing by putting in a real big plenum for more air, they're doing that for their guns that are shooting the slugs, the big slugs, and they just need a lot more air than what's right there. So what they're going to do is basically expand this thing here. Let's just say if I were to take this regulator and move it out about 2 inches, that would give me more area for the plenum and then therefore more air. And chances are within that all of that air, it may even be higher than 1,500 psi. Okay, so basically here we are. So what's going to happen is you got 3,000 psi. It's going to go through the regulator. The regulator is only going to allow 1,500 through. So in the plenum back here is 1,500 psi of air. When the hammer strikes, it's consistently striking 1,500 psi or in that area. And as a result of that, it's already tuned, so to speak, because this hammer, you can adjust this hammer, but this hammer can be hitting 1,500 pounds of pressure over and over and over again until it falls off the regulator. Okay, so what happens is this. When you first feel it, when it's falling off the regulator, and you got to be careful of this one, when it falls off the regulator and you fill it back with air, and you take it from 1,500 back up to 3,000 psi, this regulator is not engaged yet. It engages when you take a shot. It happens very, very quickly. So what's going to happen is when you take that first shot is going to come out as low as the last shot, commonly, pretty close to it. This will come out at 765. But then your next shot is going to come out at 850. It may take 2 times to get it up here I call it seating the regulator. When the regulator is seated, then you're going to get into your sweet spot of your gun. And when you're in that sweet spot, you're going to find that it's shooting consistently, let's just say between 850, the 850s and 840. Okay, it's doing it over and over again, over and over again. And this is where your shot count comes in. You're not wasting any air. So you're going to get more shots here than you're going to get up here. Because within the power curve, you're going to be limited. And all those shots are going to be consistent. And up here, let's just say that you started at 830, ended at 830, 850 was your high. That's only a 20 feet per second difference. Down here, if you regulate it, 30 is where you want to be. You want to be within 30 feet per second between your shots when you're regulated. And for those guys that are shooting long distances, they want to be at 20 because they want that. The longer you go, the more these little difference in speed is going to manifest itself. But it won't do it on short shots. So basically, you take your shots, you get to your end of the regulator, and I know one time I was hunting and I told you guys, I'm out of air. And even though I was out of air, I still could shoot all the way down to probably, I would say 500 feet per second, and still kill the sparrows and starlings that I was shooting at, because it didn't take a lot to do that. Okay, so I would shoot the gun all the way off the regulator. But what's happening is this: my shots have to become shorter and shorter because it's going there. And it's moving so slow that the pellet's going to arc more. So I got to take that into account. But as long as I'm within, I say, 30 yards, chances are all the way down to 700, I think it's going to be pretty much dead on. I might start to aim a little bit higher as I get down in here. But that is the difference between an unregulated and a regulated gun. And I should also say that this at the last is that the reason your gun that you buy says 3,000 PSI, it's not because this cylinder here can't take any more than that. These cylinders are rated a lot higher than that. What it is that they don't want this hammer hitting against this sear trying to push 4,000 pounds of pressure, because eventually something here is going to give and break. So they tell you no more than 3,000 PSI. But in a regulated gun, as you can see, especially if you take a look at the FX Impact, which hold, and a lot of the other guns now that they will hold 4,500. The reason they can hold 4,500 PSI is because this is not going to be slamming against that because of the regulator. And I just wanted to throw that in and as an explanation, and let's move on. Well, there it is. You know, I bet if I were to give a quiz to all the air gunners in the world, and I were to say to them, I'm not talking about the top people, I'm talking about the average person with an air gun, and I would say to them, what is the air gun's best friend? What's the best friend for an air gun? Some would say, oh, the pellet. Others would say, oh, the scope. Gotta have a great scope on it. Somebody even say bipod and some other things. There's only one true best friend for this gun. Chrono is the answer, because with this thing here, you know what your gun is doing, and it makes your gun capable of doing even more things if you want to tinker. I'm not a tinkerer, you know. I'll play with the hammer spring and I'll do some other things to try to get the speed up or down there, but I'm not messing with some of these other things that people are messing with. I'm not going in and try to put a stronger spring in it to make the hammer go a little bit harder. I'm not going to go in and try to mess around with anything like that. I'm just too scared to. But the adjustments I can make, I make, and I make with confidence, and I make them with confidence because I have one thing in my arsenal that everybody needs to have in the arsenal, and that is this thing right here. You need to know what your pellets are doing when they come out that gun. You got to know what that regulator is doing to make sure it's effective. And as you can see, I don't, you know, maybe you guys saw something here I didn't see. And if you did, please put it in the comments. I see no need for those people who told me get rid of those FX regulators. They're no good. Get a Huma. Get a Huma. Okay. Get rid of those. Get rid of the shroud on there. You got to get a Donnie FL. Why? Don't be sold, people. There are people out there trying to sell you on some crazy stuff. Don't be sold. You got one thing today. I told my cousin. I said to him, he made a bad purchase. I said, there's no excuse for making a bad purchase. He said, what do you mean? I said, there's no excuse. There was a time when you could go to Consumer Report and hope it was in there and get some information on it. Other than that, guess where you had to go? You had to go to the salesman. And when you went to the salesman, his commission is based on what he sells you, not on what you want or need. Not on that. So he's going to always try to push you up to a higher thing. That's what they do. That's what they're paid to do. Do your research. Everything is on YouTube University. You can learn everything there you need to know to make your purchases. Don't listen to 2 or 3 people and go out and do these crazy things they want you to do. Be smart. I know it makes some people mad. All right. Until next week, when I'm going to try to come to you with something else new. I'm going to try to, through this period that we're going through with this C19, I'm going to try to put out something as much as I can just to be doing something to keep myself from going crazy. So Again, as always, I want you guys to keep it safe. I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to really, really thank those guys who subscribe to me. And your comments are just wonderful. I want you, please keep those up. And as I said at the beginning of this, let me know where you're from. I just want to add your name to the list. If you are a, so far I don't think anyone except maybe one person has told me, oh, guess what, Aaron? I have a channel. I have to look at their name. I said, wow, he might have a channel. I got to click on it, and I got to go over there and see if he got one. When I go over to see if he got one, if he doesn't have one, if he does have one, now I got to come back and I go through all this rigmarole to get back to where I was in the comments. Put it down, I'll write it down, then I'll go check it out later instead of having to check it out right then before I forget. Okay, so if you have a channel, let me know if you're watching, and I'll do what I can to promote it. And if you are outside the United States, because I take these guys for granted here, let me know who you are, and let me add you to my world map and give you some shout outs every now and then. Again, to my boys over in Great Britain, around the London area, and all of those in the surrounding area, I just want to say, I really, really enjoy your comments. I really, really appreciate the fact that I know you're watching from way over there. All right, let's keep it safe, and I'll see you next week with something. I don't know what. Thank you, guys.